Welcome to today's card class. We are going to work on a Slimeline Christmas card. So the stamps that I'm using are from Fairy Hugs. There's the Wreath Builder, Viola, and Love at Christmas Sentiment. We use a VersaFine black ink or an archival ink, anything, whatever black permanent ink you have in your stash. We use some embossing ink and white embossing powder for our sentiment. We'll use some Festive Berries Distress Oxide with our brayer. Have a gold marker or gold paint pen on handy to do our borders, some stamp blocks, some Lavinia Stamps Elements ink in Paprika and Pine, and we'll use a truffle as well. And then I have my fan brush and some mica powder in some water. So if you just don't have mica powder, just have water, that is fine also. So to get started, we'll need a scrap bit of cardstock or paper on the side just to help us clean things off. Okay, one more thing we will need is our a circle mask. So whatever circle mask you have will work. Otherwise, these are from Lavinia Stamps. Comes in a packet of all sorts of different sizes, and a blending brush as well. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to need to do is to make our background. So to do that, with the Festive Berries ink, inking up your brayer and then inking up the gel plate. So it's a great way to start on one end and then work your way up. So then you end up with a bit darker down the bottom than you do up the top, so you have more of a gradient look. But it's up to you. If you prefer the colour the whole way around, you can change it and go up and down and just have that covered. So we can roll that colour off our brayer, and with our fan brush we're going to pick up some of the water and the pigment. We're going to tap off first because we don't want those chunky bits on there. We just want some fine droplets. So come all the way up the plate. Try and stay close to the middle as you can, and as many droplets as you want or as few, so it's up to you. Okay, then we'll need to grab a piece of cardstock. Now this cardstock is the Lavinia Multifarious cardstock, but any watercolor paper or a heavy cardstock from House of Paper will work with this. Anything that's going to work with water and not feather out. So we've cut this one down to 3.5 by 7 7/8. So we're going to place that on to our gel plate, press down, and then we'll see what we've got. Awesome. That's very cool. Okay, so if you wanted a bit more color, so it is quite light with that one, which is nice. I think I might add a bit more onto it just to bring out that red a little bit more. So we'll grab some more of the Festive Berries. Ink up our gel plate again. Running that ink off, and then grabbing some water with the mica powder. Okay, stick this one back on. Press down. And the best fun about this technique is that you can just keep adding colour and adding layers on until you are happy with the background that is produced. So let's see what we've got. Cool, so this is a lot deeper in colour. That looks really good. I think I'm happy with that. Okay, so we can pop our gel plate to the side and we will clean up this splatter. And before you go on to stamping, you just want to dry it off. So you want to make sure that the cardstock is nice and dry. Okay, so once your cardstock is nice and dry, we can do our inking and stamping. So pop that to the side. So we'll need our circle mask and a blending brush or blending tool or a stencil brush, and you'll need the truffle ink. So if you don't have these Lavinia dye inks, any dye inks that you have, like the Couture Creations Card Deco inks, will work really well, the dye inks, or you could even use Distress Oxides. It's up to you and what you have available to you. So you just need a brown dye ink, adding that to the brush. Alright, then we're going to start. So we're going to have the mask up closer to the top. You might flip that around. Closer to the top of your card. And then we're going to start in the middle and then we're going to flick out. So this is going to be the base of our wreath that we're creating. Just flicking that out. Okay, there we go. Alright, so now we need start building our wreath. So start with this. I think we'll use this small one here. Okay, and using the pine ink, we're going to work around the circle. So remember, when you're stamping with the dye inks, you want to hold it there and get good contact with the paper so you get a good solid image when you stamp. Okay. Alright, so you do want a bit of overlap too with the branches as you stamp on there and go around the circle. So move the card around. So it's okay, like with the branches going out in different angles, it doesn't have to be perfectly rounded, because like any wreath, you'll always have extra pieces sort of sticking out. So just keep stamping around. Alright, I'll get one more in there. off our stamp. And then we're going to use one of the holly leaves in this stamp set. Okay, so inking up the holly leaf, and then I've chosen just to stamp it around the circle, but where each of these branches connect, that's where I'm putting the holly leaf. So if you don't have this wreath builder set, just have a look through your stash and see what you've got that might work for this particular card. This is a great stamp set to have in your Christmas collection. Stamp that off. Female stamp. Okay, so then the last thing we're going to add around our wreath is some of the holly berries. So these are quite large and we don't really need all of them, especially with this little branch in between. So what we can do is grab a scrap bit of cardstock and we can use that as our mask. So we're going to ink up, then we're going to add these holly berries in between the holly leaves, have the mask there so you get just the berries and not the stalk. There we go. So we're going to add all those all the way around in our mask. Okay, you add one more. There we go. Okay, so with your wreath created, we're going to add our little fairy in the middle. So Viola is going to sit there in the middle, sitting a little bit over the top there. So we're going to stamp her on, and we're going to use the VersaFine ink, but an archival ink would work really well with this technique as well. So inking up our stamp so we get a good coverage. And if you're trying to work out placement, you can add your acetate to work out which way you'd like to have her. I think we might put her there. Okay. On a slight angle. So remember, pressing down, being patient, letting that ink soak into the paper so we get a good solid image. Beautiful. Okay. So once you have stamped Viola, we can add our sentiment down the bottom. So we've got Love at Christmas. We'll use our anti-static tool. And then we're going to stamp with some embossing ink. We'll add our white embossing powder. So you could use gold, silver, whatever colour. You could use red, whatever you wanted. So add that over the top. Beautiful. Okay, pump our excess away. And remember, when you are embossing with your heat gun, to let your heat gun warm up a little bit before going in there with the embossing powder. And then it will change very quickly. There we go. So then to edge our card, grab our gold marker, thick end, just lining up. And you could use black to do this as well, or silver. If you don't have a gold marker, just a gold paint pen will work as well. Gives the card a nice finish. Okay. I think we might add some holly just off the side. So we're going to stamp it in the pine. So when you're first using a stamp, it's always good to practice it on a scrap bit of cardstock. There we go. Okay, so what we might do is grab just a red marker and colour in the holly berries. There we go. and then we can add it to our card base. So cut a piece of red cardstock or backing cardstock to 8¼ inches. Just got to remember. So cutting the cardstock to 8 1/8 of an inch by 3 3/4, and that is going on to a standard size DL card, which I've just used a pre-made one from House of Paper. But if you're going to cut yours out, cutting it out at 7 3/4 by 8 1/4, and then just scoring it in half. Okay, so we're going to adhere the backing card on with our double-sided tape. There it is. And adhering that on to the front of your card. I think I just want to add a little bit more of the holly leaves onto the card. Okay, so we're going to stick this on right in the middle. Okay, so it just feels a little unfinished, so we're going to add a little bit more of the holly. On this side. Extra ink. There we go. That's good. Okay. I like it. So just have fun with your cards and how you want to put it together. So once you are happy with your stamping, we're going to tape that up and put that on our card front. And then to finish off our card, we're going to add some glitter, because why not? Every fairy needs a bit of bling. So with this one, I always like to have another bit of tape right across the middle there. It just helps with the warping because of using the water and then heating it up. Oh, one more. Okay. So then adding that on to the middle. Beautiful. Okay, so with some glue, we are going to add some glitter to our fairy's wings. Just adding glue. So if you have a glue pen, that will work as well. This is just a fine tip glue bottle. Okay. Alright, we'll grab our glitter. Tapping that on. And then tap it off. Okay, grab the brush off some of the extra glitter. And there we go. It's a beautiful Love It Christmas card. So I hope you have fun with this technique and make as many Christmas cards as you like. Of course, you don't have to do the wreath. You could stamp whatever you wanted to on the front with this technique and just have some fun. But I look forward to seeing you next time.